Welcome y'all to another episode of Historic Markers. We are in Monroe County, Illinois, and we're here and excited to go see what Monroe County has to offer. Now, Monroe County's a big, got a lot of them. There's quite a few, so this is going to be a multi-parter. So stick with us and come back for the rest of it, because I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think we're going to find some really awesome markers here. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. All right, this is Holy Cross Lutheran Cemetery. It's all that's left of what used to be Holy Cross Lutheran Church. The present church was moved to Renault, Illinois, and that's where their present cemetery is. But it looks like they continue to maintain the graves that are here, which are very old, and from some of the founding families of the area. We're on the grounds of the St. John Cemetery in Fults, Illinois, and this marker is in memory of Revolutionary War soldier Robert Kidd, born 1747, died March 4th, 1836. This marker was placed in 2011. There's a little bit more information about him. Served under the command of Colonel George Rogers Clark in the Virginia line, the capture of Kaskaskia and the capture of Fort Vincennes, and this was placed by Arthur Kissel, his great-great-great-grandson. Hi, we are out in the middle of nowhere near Fults, Illinois, on Stringtown Road, close to the Mississippi River, and we are on the Kaskaskia-Cahokia Trail. We're here for Kidd, Illinois, also known as Boxtown, and this marker right here. The town of Kidd was named after Robert Kidd, who had been a soldier serving under Colonel George Rogers Clark. Kidd was in the original group of settlers who came to what is now Monroe County in 1782 with the intention of permanently settling here. While others in the group chose locations near the present city of Waterloo and in the American Bottoms near Moordock Lake, Robert Kidd chose to settle in this area north of Fort de Chartres. His house was under the bluff at the head of Kidd Lake, which still bears his name. He died there in 1849. Most of the tracts of land in this area are parallel, long and narrow areas that stretch from the bluff to the river as a result of the Renault grant that gave Revolutionary War era militiamen land. Although many of the mercenaries who were granted land sold the tracts to other locals for profit. Sometimes referred to as long lots, these plots of ground provided the owners with a high spot near the bluff to build a home, rich and productive floodplain soil, and ready access to the benefits of the Mississippi River. This layout of the land had another benefit. Because the fields were so narrow, the French settlers would all start farming in the same place and farm side by side, and then they would only have to look in one direction in case of attacks by Native Americans. Kidd Lake State Natural Area is an example of the once expansive wetlands of the Mississippi River floodplain known as the American Bottoms. The marsh was historically part of an 800-acre lake bed and was once home to a variety of wetland birds, some now rare in Illinois. It is an important rest stop for migrating waterfowl and continues to provide critical habitat to a diverse range of birds, amphibians, and reptiles. Kidd, the town, was later given the nickname Boxtown because the whole town was boxed up around the intersection of Kaskaskia Road and Stringtown Road, which is where we're standing. A post office was established in Kidd on January 12, 1887, but it was discontinued on April 15, 1907. Postmasters were Charles Dorr and Silas Wynn. One of the established businesses in the community was J.W. Harbaugh Feed Service and Grocery. For many years, the local telephone exchange switchboard was located at the Harbaugh property. So this is pretty cool. This Kaskaskia-Cahokia Trail is a 60-mile corridor that runs from Randolph County through Monroe and up into St. Clair County. There we go. This would have been where Kid was. As you can see, there's nothing but the sign and some farmland, but there we go. We're at the St. John's Cemetery outside of Fults, Illinois, and we're coming up here for this obelisk that's here in this cemetery. And this marker, this gravestone, is for Robert and Mary McGowan Kidd. Robert Kidd served in the Revolutionary War from 1774 to 1778. He settled in this area in 1781 with wife Mary McGowan. Robert Kidd was born 1749 and died in 1836. He was buried half a mile south of this monument. Son John Kidd, born in 1802 and died 1862. He was a soldier in the Black Hawk War from 1831 to 1832. John married Mary Fults Dow of Jacob and Elizabeth Fults. Gotcha. Hence the town of Fults. All right. This marker gives us some of the history of Maeystown. It says where 3 streams descend the bluff was founded by Jacob Mays in 1852. The original settlers were German members of the 40-acre movement. The village is unique in manner, with structures integrated into the landscape. The original stone church held services intermittently in German until 1943. 60 significant buildings still exist, including Mays Log House, the original church, the stone bridge, Zettinger's Mill, and various outbuildings, barns, and smokehouses made of limestone, brick, and wood. These buildings, built in the mid to late 1800s, form this quaint little village. I can tell you, just driving through here is amazing. It looks like every building you see is historic and built right, like it says, right into the landscape. All right. Beautiful church here. We are in Maeystown, Illinois. And we are actually here for the sign on this building. It says, St. John's First Church, the oldest known log structure in Illinois on its original site in continuous use for religious purposes since 1859. First worship service of St. John's congregation held here in 1859 to 67. And here is the log structure. It was the first church. That is amazing. It's still here, and they still use it. All right, we're outside the Maeystown post office for this marker. The Village of Maeystown, Illinois, founded in 1852, has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places on June 23, 1978 by the United States Department of the Interior. As well it should be. This is an amazing, amazing place. If you've not ever driven through Maeystown, do it, because the preservation of this place, the buildings, the historical preservation is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So come to Maeystown. Alright, this building was Bettinger's Mill, and it houses, so there is a sign that says that, and it does house the Maeystown Preservation Society Museum and Gift Shop. But we're here for this marker right here. And this marker, again, gives more of the history of Village of Maeystown. The village of Maeystown, originally known as Maysville, was founded in 1852 by Jacob Mays, a German immigrant from Bavaria. Mays purchased 100 acres and had the land surveyed and subdivided into streets and lots with the intention of attracting other German craftsmen and tradesmen to create a self-sustaining village. Purchasing this land was timely because nearly 1 million German immigrants came to America in the decade following the unsuccessful German Revolution of 1848. The immigrants traveled up the Mississippi from New Orleans, stopped briefly in St. Louis, and then spread by the thousands into the surrounding areas of Missouri and Illinois. Jacob Mays's lots sold rapidly. Among the first settlers were blacksmith, cobbler, cooper, medical doctor, furniture maker, undertaker, miller, saddler, tailor, wagon maker, tavern owner, hotel owner, horse trader, vintner, as well as butchers, carpenters, masons, merchants, and farmers. I don't know what else you would need. Right there, I imagine there probably was a teacher or two in there, but anyway. These settlers built much of the village in the German style using local limestone and brick. There are two markers on this same pillar here outside of Waterloo and Madonnaville. Very nice and peaceful here. This one is for the Pioneer Mill. Says the Pioneer Mill was a center of early commerce. Often its water wheel ran a sawmill as well as a grist mill. Mills operated at this site for over 100 years. Prior to the War of 1812, much flour was shipped to St. Louis and New Orleans. In the late 1700s, Josiah Ryan built a mill nearby at Golden's Blockhouse. A short time later, Andrew Kinney built the first mill here, powered by water gushing from the spring in the bluff. Early in the 1800s, the James family came, and General Thomas James, author of 3 Years Among the Indians, built a new mill here in 1827. The stately home here was the James residence. Monroe City was then known as James Mill. Later, the mill was owned by Garretson and Harlow's, and then it was purchased by a Swiss immigrant, Gottlieb Siebold. Change over from water to steam power was made in 1851. In 1882, conversion from a grist to a roller mill was made by George W. Siebold and young Charles Drury of Pioneer Auto fame, supervised the installation. After Siebold's moved their milling operations to Waterloo, other owners operated here until 1899, when an explosion and fire reduced it to ruins. So now the other marker is on the same pillar here. We're going over here, and we're going to talk over here about William H. Bissell from 1811 to 1860. The 11th governor of Illinois lived in this vicinity before he was 30, serving as a pioneer physician, teacher, and lawyer. He was elected as a Democrat to the state legislature, becoming Speaker of the House after serving as a colonel in the Mexican War. He became a member of Congress in 1852. He was elected first Republican governor of Illinois in 1856 and died in office in 1860. We are in Renault, Illinois. We have had the greatest conversation with a lady whose house I am just standing right outside her door. So hello to you if you are watching this. This monument is on the grounds of Our Lady of Good Counsel Parish, and it's in memory of those members of Our Lady of Good Counsel Parish who gave their lives that we might worship in freedom. And it lists Peter Ike, Cletus Walster, Waldo Olsen, Henry Schmitz, and William Thing. Again, I'm horrible with pronunciations. My German is almost as bad as my French. But it gives the dates of their deaths, World War I and World War II. May we never forget them. All right, we are outside of Waterloo at the Paul Whiteman Subterranean Nature Preserve. And this is called Cliff Top. And it is really, really beautiful here. I mean, they've got prairie restoration going on. And they have volunteers that come out and help to take care of the areas. There's a nice pavilion and pond. The marker here is for right here, and there's so much going on here. This is amazing. Historic conservation at Foglepole. Throughout history, conservation of the land surrounding what is now called Foglepole Cave has been made possible by private property holders. These landowners were cautious, only allowing trips into the cave for scientific and research-related expeditions. With the Foglepole family's permission, Paul Whiteman entered the cave in 1949 to begin mapping its many branches. Whiteman's exploration brought attention to the cave, resulting in the creation of the 27-acre state-owned Foglepole Nature Preserve. For sale again in the early 2000s, the land was set to be home to several small farms. Septic leaching and animal waste runoff from small farms may have caused severe damage to the Foglepole ecosystem below. Purchased by Clifftop NFP in late 2013, the newly dedicated Paul Whiteman Subterranean Nature Preserve underwent the process of prairie restoration. Regular prairie burnings, plantings, and volunteer days are in place to ensure a healthy environment both above and below ground. Though the Foglepole Cave is closed to the public, scientific research continues both in the cave and on the prairie. And it tells you here what a subterranean nature preserve is, which is really interesting. A lot of different levels above and below ground. It's really cool. Just zoom in, pause and zoom in to read all of that. And then on the other side over here, it talks about the ecosystem all around the area. This area is beautiful. There is a walking area. It's only open from sunrise to sunset. Look at that. Zoom in on that, and you can see that turtle right out there in the water. That's so cool. I would never have known that this was here without us doing this series. It's just so off the beaten path. Kind of want to get a little more of a close-up of these. You can pause and zoom in on the names of the people involved. And here's a little bit of a closer view of this monument. And they even have a bathroom facility here, which for something out in the middle of nowhere like this is really amazing. But look at the prairie plants that they've got here. I just think this is so cool. All right, we are outside of Waterloo at this pretty older church. This marker here says that this is St. Joe, Illinois, in the Zion Evangelical United Church of Christ. St. Joe is located in what was originally the New Design Precinct. The name New Design originated with James Lemon Sr., who observed that he had a new design to make a settlement south of Bellefontaine, which is now Waterloo. This settlement, whose inhabitants were largely immigrants from Kentucky and Virginia, was one of the largest colonies in Illinois. Later, settlers to the St. Joe area had been part of the German immigration during the mid-1800s. St. Joe, at one time, boasted several churches, multiple homes, the Harrisonville Telephone Exchange Building, and the St. Joe Tavern. An excerpt from a local newspaper in 1916 states the Kaskaskia Cahokia Trail passes almost through the center of this district, and from all indications, the Good Roads movement will assist materially in making the trail a good highway in the future. St. Joe's Lutheran congregation later became the nucleus of the present congregation of Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Renault. After the Renault congregation built a new church, the original St. Joe Church building was used for a school for many years. A cemetery can still be seen in St. Joe behind the former Lutheran Church location. Zion Evangelical Church was organized in 1860. One of the charter members of the St. Joe Lutheran Church, Carl Hartman, had split from that congregation, and the first evangelical services were held in the Hartman home. Hartman later provided the land to build the first evangelical church in November 1861. The church, which serves the current congregation of Zion United Church of Christ, was built in 1884. It is one of the local churches with the historic rooster on the steeple, a tradition brought to America by the German settlers. You can see the rooster there, and I'm going to kind of zoom up the building here a little bit so you can see the rooster on top of that steeple. You see that up there? That's pretty cool. Did not know that about the roosters on the churches. That's interesting. All right, we're here in Wartburg, Illinois, for this beautiful old stone church. And the marker is right here. And it says Holy Cross Lutheran Church of Wartburg. The church was organized in 1841 by Pastor G.A. Schifferdecker and settlers from Saxony, Thuringia, and Westphalia, Germany. The site was donated in 1849 by the Johann Christian and Catherine Just. The present church was erected in 1863, and the tower was rebuilt in 1913. English services were introduced in 1926, but did not predominate until 1946. Monthly German services were discontinued in 1967. The congregation also operated a Christian day school here from 1841 until 1960. Holy Cross is considered the mother church of several surrounding congregations. All right, we are at the Illinois Cavern. We're here for this rock, and it says Armin Henry Krueger, 1914 to 1996, served as caretaker of Illinois Caverns for 45 years. His constant presence and willingness to share his affection for underground Monroe County enhanced the experience for countless visitors to the cave. His humble manner and simple life, magnified by his open heart and warm support of cave explorers, brought attention to the cave's natural wonder and helped ensure its eventual protection as a state natural area. That's really awesome, and it's probably going to be way above my skill level, but that's cool that we have this. We are up here close to Waterloo, Illinois, at this church. It's the Immaculate Conception. It says Madonnaville on there on the sign, and the marker's up by the church, but I wanted to give you a good view of this church. And there's the cemetery back behind it is very old, and there is a newer cemetery on the other side of the road. But the marker we're looking for is this one right up here in the corner. Beautiful old church. Look at the stonework on that. It's awesome. It says Immaculate Conception Church, 1833 to 2014, Madonnaville, Illinois. The settlement of Madonnaville was not always called Madonnaville. It was originally known as James Settlement or James Mills. In June of 1804, Joseph Austin James moved here with his family. For many years, the James family was the only Catholic family in the area, and they could satisfy their Paschal, I'm not Catholic, excuse me if I offend anybody, confession only in the town of St. Louis, which was only a small town at the time. For the James family and a few of the neighbors who were Catholic, in the year 1817, a Mass was said by a Jesuit missionary, and again in the year 1819, the Father de Bourges, the Bishop of New Orleans, offered the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass on his visitation of the Catholics in the Mississippi Valley. Picture here says, from the left to right is the schoolhouse, the rectory, the church, and St. Henry's Cemetery. The cemeteries are located near the church. One named for St. Henry is located directly east of the church and was originally the private burial grounds of the James family. The cemetery across the road was laid out in 1892. The oldest tombstone standing is that of Mary Drury, who died May 3rd, 1836. Stone Church. In 1855, Father P.J. Baltz, pastor of Waterloo, inaugurated a movement to erect a stone church on the James site, and on September 24th of the following year, the cornerstone of the present church was laid. 3 years went by before the church was finished. The floor dimensions of the church are 40 feet wide by 70 feet long. George Andres was the stonemason who built the church, rectory, and schoolhouse. Adam Eichenseer was the carpenter. The total cost of the church was $4,038.25, which is $122,082.33 in 2021 currency. And the land. On September 7th, 1840, General Thomas James and his wife deeded 40 acres to the Catholic Church for a church to be built. This land is where the present stone church stands today. A log church was built on that site in 1844. The Catholic Directory of 1845 states that Father P. McCabe, a prairie along Monroe County, St. Augustine's, attends James Mills, New Design, O'Hara Settlement, Harrisonville, Waterloo, and Bonds Creek, Monroe County. The first resident pastor, in 1861, the first resident pastor, Father Lewis Henson, coming from Edwardsville, Madison County, arrived, and the first records were begun. Father Henson opened a parish school in the old log church in 1861. The rectory, a 2-story structure, was built in 1862 at the cost of about $2,000. Today, it is the home of the Krueger family. Father Henson was removed in 1865. The church records were started in 1861. The first burial record was John Berger, 48 years old, buried July 13, 1861, the husband of Barbara Eichmann. From 1861 to 2014, there were 1,774 baptisms. The year with the most baptisms was 1862, with 80 baptisms. And then about the school. In 1874, Father Bernard Aune took charge of the congregation. His main work was the erection of the 2-story school building. The cost was about $5,500, which is about $131,507 today. The Sisters of the Most Precious Blood of Ruma taught and also lived at the school. The school employed teachers from 1902 to 1908. It closed from 1923 to 1938 and closed permanently in 1949. It was then used for a meeting hall, CCD classes, and other special activities until 2014. That is really amazing. That was actually an Eagle Scout project put together by Ian Hubner, an Eagle Scout. So that's really cool. I want to kind of walk around over here. I don't know if this other building is still back here or not. Yeah, there's the other building back there. I guess that was the school building there. And then this is would have been the rectory. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, we are outside of Waterloo in the country, on a country road in Monroe County. And we are here for this monument right here. It says, on this site in the year 1783 stood the first English-speaking public school in the state of Illinois. It was taught by Samuel J. Seeley. The school was an abandoned squatter's cabin located on a tract of land known as the James Lehman Grant, later the Varnum Homestead. So there we go. Right here, I guess, in this cornfield. All right, y'all. That's been the end of this episode of Monroe County Historic Markers. I'm just horrible. The end of this episode of Historic Markers at Monroe County. So I hope you've enjoyed what you've learned so far. Let me know in the comments if there's something that you had questions about, or something that we need to focus more on. We are going to be continuing on with Monroe County, so stay tuned for the next episode.